Hello and welcome back to INMR, where today we are live for deadline day. The transfer window shuts in about 2 hours. So today what I'm going to be doing, instead of a podcast as I normally do on Fridays, we're going to be going through all of the transfer news from 9 till 11. We've got a couple of segments for analysis of players that have already signed today and in the previous weeks. What I'm going to do, first of all, is take you through sort of the format of the live today, and then we'll take a look at what's already been covered today. We'll go through all of the stuff that's been said, and then all I've got at the minute are the updates until 8 p.m. So then we'll go over what's gone on in the last hour before we get into the important stuff. So, like I said, we're going to start off with just an introduction of what's already happened today. Answer a few key questions about the transfer window. We're going to take a look at Leicester, Raheem Sterling's transfer saga, and talk about the whole Mark Gahey thing and if 70 million was really worth it. What we're going to go on to after that is a couple of analysis segments. We'll talk about the Jadon Sancho deal, Federico Chiesa. We're going to talk about my opinion on the top 10 signings of the window. And then we'll be about an hour in, so we'll go over some of the top 5 rumours still ongoing, see how they're progressing. That'll be on the hour mark, and then what we'll do an hour later is come back to that and see if those deals have progressed and if there's any new rumours that are going to be minutes away. We're going to talk about the window winners, which obviously I'll get onto and talk about them when we're there. We'll have a look at Arsenal, and it doesn't look like at the moment they're going to bring in a striker, so we'll talk about how they're going to fare without that in their team this season. And then just as we hit 10 to 11, we'll go over the last minute deals as they happen, and then obviously we'll recap as it goes past 11. So, as I said, we're going to go through what's already happened today. So we've got quite a few things. Obviously, it's all going to be very busy. First of all, Pep admitted that replacing Julian Alvarez is a big risk. He said that he insisted that there are more than enough options and he is happy with the squad. He didn't expect Julian Alvarez to leave, but it's happened. Obviously, what's happened with Oscar Bob isn't ideal. But he says we've got Phil Foden, James McAtee, Gundogan can play in that position, Bernardo Silva as well. He said they're, of course, different players to Erling Haaland. Maybe it could be a mistake not replacing Alvarez, but we'll just wait and see. Personally, I think they should have replaced him. I think 82 million for him was a lot of money to play around with, so they should have taken that opportunity to go and invest in a new player with that money. But of course, it is Manchester City, so they can take that risk because they've dominated for so long. So is one player going to change everything? In my opinion, potentially. But you can't be surprised if City still go on and become very successful with what they do without him. Chelsea have ended talks with Ivan Toney as he is set to go to Al Ahly. We'll get onto that in a second, but they do continue their talks with Victor Osimhen. Him and Chelsea and Napoli are trying to sort something out at the minute. It's obviously very difficult because of the wages that Osimhen is on at the moment. There's no way that Chelsea are going to be able to pay that much. Napoli are looking for a permanent deal or at least a loan with an obligation to buy. Overnight, Al Ahly agreed a deal with Napoli, but that has since collapsed. So at the minute, it's either staying at Napoli or going to Chelsea for Victor Osimhen. Dani Ceballos has asked to leave the club today, but Real Madrid are sticking to a €20 million asking price for the midfielder. He started just 5 La Liga games this last season, which came in the final weeks of the season when Madrid were more focused on winning the Champions League. With Toni Kroos retiring, I think that he thought maybe he'd get a bit more game time. But after 3 La Liga games, he's only played 5 minutes so far, so that sort of shows you that he's not really in the plans. He was also brought on for the final seconds of the Super Cup game against Atlanta, but once again, that's not signs of a player that they are planning on using throughout the season. The current top side that are linked with him are Real Betis. They've just lost Nabil Fekir to a side in Dubai called Al Jazeera, but Real Betis are reluctant to spend €20 million on Ceballos. Bayern target Jonathan Tah has decided to stay at Leverkusen. He did admit that there were other options, but he said he's going to complete 10 years at Bayer Leverkusen. He said, "You can be sure that I'm very much looking forward to all the challenges with our team, the coaching staff, and you fans this season." There are also 4 clubs going in for Reiss Nelson. They've had a lot of players go this season. I believe it was 33 earlier today, outgoings. There's now Reiss Nelson who's looking to go as well. The 4 clubs are currently unnamed, but I think a loan move for him would be really good, whatever the clubs are. Let's have a look. West Ham have had a really busy window. I think they've been up there with the window winners, who, of course, we're going to get onto later. Haven't quite beaten the team who I think have won it, in my opinion, but they are not yet finished. PSG's Carlos Soler is set to join on loan, with James Ward-Prowse going to Nottingham Forest after just a year. Carlos Soler has been somebody that's been on the table for a long time, so I wasn't surprised to see that. But James Ward-Prowse is something that really shocked me. You know, he's only been there, I believe, a year after Southampton got relegated, and for him to go straight away was surprising. He obviously hasn't reached the standards that he was at Southampton. Um, but yeah, to see him go was a little bit of a surprise. They're also looking at centre back Aguerd also going out on loan to Real Sociedad. Manchester United have completed the signing of midfielder Sekou Kone from Malian side Goudas FC. He is an 18-year-old defensive midfielder, which is a position that Eric Ten Hag has looked to strengthen. But United's plan is to sort of integrate him into the academy first before taking him into the first team. Ugarte is still linked; it's still set to happen. We're going to see if in a minute if it has been announced yet. Um, but that is something that is set to be announced tonight. Apparently, it is totally completed. Scott McTominay has just had his transfer to Napoli announced. Napoli are also looking to get Billy Gilmore. That's just been here we go by Fabrizio Romano, which obviously I'm extremely disappointed about seeing him go. But if he wanted the deal, which supposedly he did, he's pushed for it today, then obviously that's absolutely fine. Everton have signed Mangala on a loan deal from Lyon. He used to play for Nottingham Forest, but he joined the French club on loan in February before making the move permanent earlier this summer in a deal worth £30 million, including add-ons, but he's now arriving at Goodison Park, and he is the 7th signing for Everton this season. Key people include Jack Harrison, who signed permanently, Jake O'Brien, Iliman and Dye, so hopefully he can strengthen that defence, because so far Everton have conceded 7 goals in 2 games, 3-0 against Brighton, 4-0 against Tottenham. It hasn't been good at all. So hopefully they can, have a little bit more strength in the defence with Mangala. Liverpool have confirmed that Stefan Bajcetic has joined RB Salzburg on loan for the rest of the season. Burnley have signed Brighton's Jeremy Sarmiento on a season-long loan deal, and Ajax's Carlos Forbes is travelling to Wolves at the moment to complete a transfer worth €13.5 million. Obviously, I saw him at the Amex last season for the Europa League. After hearing a lot of good things about him and mentioning him in quite a few podcasts a couple of seasons ago, I wasn't massively impressed from what I saw live at the Amex and then watching the game in Amsterdam. But obviously, that's 2 games out of a whole season. So I think he's going to be a decent replacement from what I saw from his City days. And hopefully, he's not going to live up to the standards of Pedro Neto straight away, but it might be a step in the right direction. Finally, Palace complete the signing of Wolfsburg's Maxence Lacroix. That's on a 5-year deal, an initial £18 million with add-ons potentially taking the deal to £21 million. Lacroix spent a season last year working under Glasner at Wolfsburg, so he's going to fit in quite nicely. So that's all that's gone on so far up until 8 o'clock. We're now going to take a look at anything that's potentially progressed as I've been talking. Raheem Sterling's obviously a massive one today. Arsenal potentially looking at him, even if it is a loan deal. Let's have a look. Nat Phillips has joined Derby County on loan. He's 27 years old now, so I think next year is probably the time that he gets a permanent move, but that's been confirmed on a 1-year loan deal. That's as far as we've got so far with Fabrizio Romano. Let's have a look. Petrovic joined Strasbourg earlier today as well from Chelsea, as they look to as many players as they can this evening. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, Brighton midfielder De Hood joined Frankfurt. I don't think he really ever did much of substance in a Brighton. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be most remembered for that red card against Sheffield United last season. So he's off on a permanent deal. A bit more Brighton business then. Odella Fire joins Blackpool on loan. I went to the Crawley game a couple of days ago and I did think a Fire definitely needed a loan move. So I'm glad that's happened as well. Mario Kozadubri got a loan move earlier today to Blackburn. I was quite surprised to see that one because I thought he did really well in Japan. Um, but of course, if Hurtler doesn't see him in his plans, we have got a lot of wingers, so it's not a surprise to see that either. Um, Brighton were linked with Conrad Harder from Nordjylland. It's the same club that Ibrahim Osman came from. He's a 19-year-old striker, but Brighton aren't expected to do that now. But he was going to be worth 20 million. So Brighton have announced signing Bournemouth goalkeeper Neto on a season-long loan. He's going to replace Aaron Ramsey, who Hampton earlier today. That was 18 million, but up to 25 on add-ons. And ex-Chelsea striker Tammy Abraham leaves Roma for AC Milan. He's going to wear the number 90 shirt this season. So that is everything so far. We are fully up to date, I believe. Yeah, Fabrizio Romano latest is Ipswich Town are one of the four sides in advanced talks to sign Reece Nelson on loan from Arsenal, which is hopefully going to open the door for Raheem Sterling to join as well. Manuel Ugarte and Man United official soon, it says there as well. So that's everything that's gone on so far. So what we're going to look at next is if Luton, Leicester have done enough to stay up. We're going to take a look at the people they've brought in, people they've let go, and if they've done enough this transfer window to stay in the Premier League. Obviously, they could potentially have a points deduction coming their way. If not, then they've got a little bit more potential. If we take a look at who they've brought in for 17 million from Sporting. I'm just going to go over the key ones. But Bobby De Cordova-Reid on a free. Buonanotte they brought in from Brighton on loan. Ollie Skip from Tottenham for 25 million and Jordan Ayew from Crystal Palace for 7.5 million. The big outgoing, of course, was Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall to Chelsea for 30 million. Yesterday I put out an analysis on Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. And I think, that sort of gives you an idea of the role that he played at Leicester and how important that was and how much of a dampener that's going to be on their season in terms of, somebody living up to that standard, and also what to expect from him in a Chelsea shirt. There's so many new Chelsea players that people perhaps haven't heard of. So that sort of gives you an idea on one of 40 in terms of what to expect from them. In terms of Raheem Sterling, I do think Arsenal is a good fit. There are obviously talks about Manchester United, Wolves, Fulham, loads and loads of different clubs, even clubs abroad as well. But I do think Arsenal is going to be the best fit for him. I did think that Arsenal potentially do have enough depth on the left-hand side, but as a backup to Bukayo Saka, I think is really good because he is obviously going to play a lot of games this season. He suits sort of the attacking style of play. You know that he's clinical in front of goal. We haven't seen a lot of him, so people may forget how good he actually is. But, he's certainly a talented player and someone that on the day could provide those crucial moments to take them one step further this season. And finally, is 70 million too much for Mark Gahey? Absolutely. Yes, he had a brilliant Euros. And, perhaps people are going to think that it's because of my Brighton ties that I don't think a Palace player is worth 70 million. I think he's excellent. I think in a season or two more of proving that he's at the standard that he was at the Euros, then definitely 70 million is good. But I think Palace were potentially a little bit too greedy in setting the standard that high for a price for him. Obviously, Newcastle put in something like 7 bids, all got rejected. So I do believe they're walking away from that now, which I think is wise. Squad depth wise, if we take a look at the depth of Newcastle, the centre back options are Sven Botman, Fabian Schär, Jamal Lascelles, and Emil Kraft. They do definitely need another central defender, but as I say, 70 million is far too much, especially for somebody that's he's been good at Crystal Palace, but he wasn't worth 70 million before the tournament. So just based off one tournament, I don't think they can value him that highly. They can hold out and we'll probably end up getting more. But at this moment in time, I do think Newcastle made the right decision, but they definitely need to improve the depth in that centre back position in, the hour and 45 minutes that they've got left. So, if we take a look at the top 10 signings so far this window, these aren't ranked because I don't think it's fair to, because it's just so subjective. So I've gone just with the top 10 that I really liked that were completed. Let's have a look where that is. Here we are. Perfect. Right. So we've got 10 players here who I think are going to do really well in the Premier League. Some of them I've done analysis on as well. So what I'll do during the break in a little bit is put all the if I've done an analysis on them in my podcast, I'll put that link in the description. So, for example, the first one here is Riccardo Calafiori. I've done quite a big analysis on him. So, what I'll do is put that in the description so that at some point you can go and watch that and understand more about the role he's played at Bologna last season and how that's going to apply to Arsenal. So, first one is Riccardo Calafiori. He obviously had a standout Euro 2024 campaign with Italy. At Bologna, he's really good at driving at the back, a very progressive defender. He helped them reach the Champions League, which is obviously a massive feat for a club like Bologna. He's a versatile defender. People know that he can play left back and centre back. In my podcast, I spoke a lot about what position would be better. I think he's better as a centre back, but of course, you can't take out Saliba. And then, are you really going to take out Gabriel? I can see him more playing as a left back, but I don't think that's where they're going to get the most out of him. I think it's going to be a bit of a Gvardiol situation at City, where Gvardiol did excellently in the World Cup with Croatia, playing at centre back. He was brought into City, something like 80 million, and then wasn't actually played in that centre back role. He was a makeshift left back, and he succeeded there. He was fine, which is what Calafiori will probably be, but it's not where he's best. He likes to come inside when he drives forward. He's not at all an overlapping fullback. He will come inside and drive through the midfield, which makes him even more impressive just because of, he's going the harder route to get to goal. But obviously when you've got him driving at you, midfield players, the forward set of defence in the other team don't really know what to do. He is only 22 years old, loads of potential. He does fit Arsenal's style of play. He's only had 11 minutes of Premier League action so far, but there's obviously going to be a lot more. If we look at the graph here, he has plenty of touches in the opposition's box. He was in the top 8% in the Serie A last season for touches in general. Possession won, he was in the top 3%. And goals, I believe that says he was in the top 80% for defenders. He got 5 assists, which I think was one of the highest all across the whole of Europe. So I think, yeah, he's a really, really exciting one. The next one is someone we've just spoken about, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. He moved from Leicester, obviously known for being quite a graceful, hard-working box-to-box midfielder. If you've seen the podcast yesterday, you'll understand about the way that he can impact Chelsea's chance creation from central areas. Last season, they did it a lot from wide areas through Cole Palmer, through Noni Madueke, players like that. But what Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall does is offer many more opportunities, and it's going to be from central areas. So it's going to be a lot harder for opposition defences to cut out attacks. When you've got Cole Palmer on the right-hand side, for example, the defender knows that as long as he's tight to him throughout the whole game, then he can stop that. It's a one-on-one, it's in a tight area on the wing, and you can nullify that quite easily. Whereas compared to somebody in the midfield who's creating plenty of chances, that's a lot harder to nullify. I think obviously he's been brought in because of his relationship with Enzo Maresca at Leicester. Last season in the Championship, he averaged 1.5 possession regains in the final third per 90, which was the most among Championship midfielders. He was the 8th amongst midfielders for chances created in open play per 90 with 1.9. Third in the Championship across all positions for expected assists with 0.31. And overall last season he had 26 goal involvements, that's 14 assists and 12 goals. Obviously Brighton wanted him. I was pretty disappointed that we didn't in the end. Obviously Chelsea swooped in at the last minute, and I'm sure that, like I say, the relationship that Maresca had with Dewsbury-Hall helped in getting him to Chelsea instead of Brighton. I think he's somebody that needs to be given a chance. I've seen already criticism sent his way when actually if you give him a chance to play full 90s every week in the Premier League, you'll see that Chelsea's chance creation is going to go up massively. Next up is Emil Smith-Rowe, and I think everyone was happy to see him get his permanent move to Fulham. 34 million, obviously left Arsenal after limited playing time due to the injuries and competition. He's gone further and further down that pecking order as the years have progressed. But of course, we all know how technically gifted he is, how much creativity he offers, and he's a massive threat in front of goal. He's already scored for Fulham. He played just over 500 minutes over the last 2 seasons in the Premier League, and last year he only had 3 starts for Arsenal. During his Arsenal career, he scored 10 goals out of 40 shots, so obviously that's a goal every 4 shots. And if we take a look at his stats versus Leicester, most recently, game week 2, obviously got 1 goal, only played 70 minutes, so this isn't, full 90, obviously. 92% pass accuracy, 63 touches, 5 passes into the final third. He won 100% of his tackles, 100% shot accuracy, 5 touches in the opponent's box, dispossessed once, and made 2 defensive actions. So you can already see that he's having a really, really good impact at Fulham. For Ipswich, they've made plenty of really good signings. I've really been impressed by what they've done so far this season. I did an article on them at the start of the window about some of the signings they'd already made straight off the bat and what was potentially coming, and they've exceeded even my expectations of what they were going to do. I spoke about Sammy Schmodix, who I've spoken about in a previous podcast as well, about Championship players that are ready for the Premier League. They went and signed him. They got Calvin Phillips. They're looking at getting Armando Broja. But one player that I really didn't see coming, and this was also somebody from my 5 Championship players that are ready for the Premier League, was Jack Clarke from Sunderland. He was formerly at Tottenham about 5 years ago, but he joined Sunderland to get some more minutes, and he really stood out there in the Championship, especially last season. So he joins Ipswich Town. He's known for his dribbling and progressive play and provides valuable attacking options. Last season in the Championship, he attempted 6.9 dribbles per 90, so he's someone that likes to take the ball forward himself. 3.8 successful dribbles per 90, 14.6 progressive carries per 90, which was the 5th highest amongst all players in the league, and 2.2 chances created in open play per 90, which was better than everyone bar 3 players. So I mean, if you get a chance to have a look at his graph on Opta, which I'm looking at now, the amount of arrows just heading towards goal are ridiculous from the way he's had 339 long progressive carries. A long progressive carry is defined as a player moving with the ball for more than 10 metres upfield. So he's not just someone that dribbles a little bit and lets it go. He's really, really adamant on getting as close to the goal as possible on his own. But also, if you take a look at some other stats, you can see that he's not selfish. He will pass it when the moment's right, and as he gets older, that's only something that's going to improve. But he's going to be a really exciting player in the Premier League, and he's like a proper winger. So that's going to be exciting as well. Another exciting winger is Savinho, who's joined Manchester City, another player that I did an analysis on at the start of the year. He joined from Troyes. He never actually played for Troyes. He just joined Girona on loan and then went back to Troyes, signed by Manchester City. They're all in the Manchester City group, so I think they got a big discount on him. He's an exciting young Brazilian player. Once again, impressive dribbling and carrying stats from La Liga. He had 6.5 dribbles attempted per 90, which was the 5th most in the league. He was 7th highest in the league for progressive carries over 10 metres per 90. That was 6.1. 44 carries ending in a shot or chance created. That's the 3rd most. And he was top for goal or assist ending carries with 10. Once again, if you get a chance to look at these graphs, it just highlights how much of a threat they are going forward. And he's a very selfless player already, and of course has drawn comparisons to Riyad Mahrez in recent weeks. Next one is Brajan Gruda for Brighton. Haven't had a chance to see him yet. Obviously, he is injured and haven't actually seen a lot of him at Mainz, where he signed from. He's a young right winger who likes to, once again, another one that loves to dribble. He's plenty of attempts. He was Fabian Hertzler's dream signing when he joined the club as manager. I think as I've seen this whole transfer window unfold, I just think about last year under Roberto De Zerbi, where our key signings that he chose were Ansu Fati on loan from Barcelona, Moderhood on a free transfer, and Igor. Igor, in my opinion, was the only success out of those three transfers. I really, really rate Igor. I think he's great for our defensive depth, both centre back and left back. Ansu Fati, apart from those moments against Ajax, I didn't. You never really got to see the real him, like the one that we were seeing emerge onto the scene 3 or 4 years ago. And as I said earlier, Moderhood, all I can really remember is the red card against Sheffield United, and then pretty much being exiled since. Obviously, went out on loan and now has just signed a permanent deal. Um, in terms of Gruder, he was wanted by Bayern Munich and Leverkusen, but he chose Brighton, £25 million signing. In terms of the stats, he attempted 7.8 dribbles per 90, which was the highest in the Bundesliga last season, and he had 0.47 combined non-penalty XG and expected assists per 90, which puts him in the top 6 amongst the under-22s in the Bundesliga. He's someone that I'm, as I say, super excited to see. We've got plenty of depth, and he's actually said he can play on the wing, in the 10, wherever he needs to play, he's happy to do so. And obviously, with our lack of a number 8 at the minute, I wonder if he's actually capable of doing that as well. West Ham brought in Guido Rodriguez, which I really liked. Free transfer from Real Betis. He's a tough midfielder. He's got high tackle attempts and possession regains, and he fits in well with West Ham's midfield. He had 2.6 tackle attempts per 90 last season in La Liga, which put him in the top 18% of midfielders. He was in the top 4% for ground duel success rate with 60.2%, and in the top 2% for possession regains per 90 with 7.5. I think potentially this is why we've seen players like James Ward-Prowse go. I know that obviously Guido Rodriguez is going to be more of a 6, being that defensively capable, but they've got a lot of depth now, and he's someone that I'm really excited to see and has potentially pushed other players like James Ward-Prowse out of the door. Wolves brought in finally a focal point in attack, a proper number 9. Obviously, Hang Hee-chan played at could play on the left hand side, could play through the middle. But I like the idea of having Jorgenstrand Larsen as like a more physical and dominant, aerially dominant number 9. He's offering that focal point to Wolves' attack. He's got high non-penalty XG in La Liga and was strong in the penalty area, which compared to Wolves, as you're going to hear in a minute, is much better than what they achieved. He had 14.5 non-penalty XG last season, which was the third highest in La Liga, and he scored 8 goals inside the 6-yard box on his own. Wolves only managed 9 last season, so like a poacher. He sneaks the goals that maybe that aren't the prettiest. But at the end of the day, that's what gets you an extra point. That's what maybe gets you a 3 points on the day. That can carry Wolves that little bit higher. Federico Chiesa, we're going to go a bit more in depth on him later on. But for now, obviously, as we know, he's a versatile forward. He's comfortable across the entire front three. Strong at dribbling and being like a creative outlet as well, which fits with Liverpool's evolving style at the moment. In terms of the stats, he averaged 4.5 take-ons per 90 minutes. At Liverpool, only Luis Diaz compares with 5.3. He created 11 chances following a take-on which was higher than any Juventus or Liverpool player last season. 36.7 high-intensity pressures per 90, which was the second amongst Juventus's forwards and midfielders. And he was the best in the Juventus team for chances created per 90 with 2.2 and expected assists per 90 with 0.23. As I said, we're going to talk a bit more about him later. Just because, I mean, the money they paid for him is absolutely ridiculous considering the potential that he's got. Final two players are Yankuba Minte, obviously a really exciting winger from Newcastle, just signed for Brighton. He really impressed at Feyenoord last season. I did an article analysing him to sort of give Brighton fans an idea of what to expect, but obviously everyone has all seen that now after the game, well, his first half at Everton, pre-season as well. I really, really liked him. I don't think he played his best game against Manchester United, but of course he was potentially shouldn't have been playing due to the concussion the week before. incredibly fast, very creative, and so aggressive in the pressing. I noticed it with Sarmiento as well. Obviously, he has just gone out on loan, but Minty's pressing is just absolutely ridiculous. And it really freaks goalkeepers out, which I like. I think we're going to get a few of those scrappy goals this season from him, just freaking the goalkeeper out by just charging at him. And obviously, that idea of pressing fits into Hursley's new system. Last season at Feyenoord, he had 27 appearances and scored 10 goals, got 6 assists, averaging a goal contribution every 92 minutes. He had 27 take-ons leading to a shot and 9 take-ons leading to a goal. And he was in the top 1% of Eredivisie wingers for tackles in the final third and tackles won per 90. Just to give you an idea of, how high the intensity is that he puts out when pressing. Finally, Matthijs de Ligt, his career hasn't reached the expectations that we thought they would since he left Ajax, but maybe maybe him reuniting with Erik ten Hag at Man United is where he can rediscover his best form. He's technically and physically strong, but he does lack pace, so he may struggle with that high defensive line. But there's other players that can cover for that. It just depends on the opponent that you're playing. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Manchester United's average start distance from their own goal was 41.5 metres last season, which is one of the deepest among the top 10 teams. But yeah, as I say, that just depends on the opponent you're playing against. If you're playing against an Arsenal, maybe you will drop off a little bit because of the pacey attackers that De Ligt won't be able to keep up with. But overall, I do think it's a good signing, and it is somewhere where he can revive his career. So that's my top 10. We'll quickly take a look if there's any more breaking news as I've been talking. And then we will take a quick break. So let's have a look at what we've got. Man United have announced Ugarte, there we go, that's 2 minutes ago, from PSG. The Uruguay international has signed a 5-year deal with the option for a further 12 months, arriving at Old Trafford for an initial 50 million euros plus a potential 10 million euros in add-ons. He's not going to be eligible to play on Sunday against Liverpool as he wasn't registered in time, but it's done. He's there. Perfect. Fabio Silva joins Las Palmas on loan from Wolves. There's no option or obligation to buy for him. That's all from there. It's all about Mbappe at the minute by the looks of things. Also, Arsenal are close to agreeing a deal with Chelsea to sign Raheem Sterling on loan once again with no obligation to buy. And apart from that, I think that's everything so far. Fabrizio Romano is saying that Raheem Sterling and Arsenal deal is in its final stages, and Ivan Toney and Al Ali's final documents being reviewed, and then the deal is done. James Ward-Prowse is currently doing his medical. So that is everything for now. It's good that the Ugarte deal has been announced, of course. I've done a little bit on him as to whether he actually suits what Manchester United need. So during this break, I'll add a little link to that video in the description. So I'll be back in a few minutes to let you know the latest developments on all of the transfer news. Hello and welcome back. We've just had a few minutes there, just a quick break, but we're back. We're going to have a look at if anything's developed in the 4 minutes that I've been gone. And if not, we're going to have a look at some of the deals so far that have been spoken about all day, but not yet complete. So, early movers on the final day of the window were Aaron Ramsdale, which we spoke about a little bit earlier, 25 million to Southampton. Sam Johnston went from Crystal Palace to Wolves for an undisclosed fee. And then I also spoke about Petrovic from Chelsea to Strasbourg. So, what we're going to do now is talk about 10 other players that are yet to complete their moves. Obviously, we've spoken about Jadon Sancho. Um, he's heading towards the exit door for some time now, and they're locked in talks over Chelsea. At the time of obviously telling you this, the discussions are centred around a loan deal. And then leaving Chelsea, of course, could be Raheem Sterling. He was struggling to drum up any interest over the last few days. Aston Villa were taking a look, Crystal Palace, but it seems now it's only Arsenal that are interested. Manuel Ugarte and Scott McTominay moves we've obviously already confirmed are complete. West Ham United, we've also spoken about Carlos Soler. It's been here we go, so we'll just see. James Ward-Prowse on his way out, and Aguerd we spoke about. Tottenham are finally going to get rid of Giovanni Lo Celso, who's agreed to return to his former club Real Betis. And Armando Broja, those talks have been reignited with Chelsea and Ipswich. If they can get that done in the next hour and 15 minutes or so, then I think that's going to be another really good addition and potentially take the pressure off of Liam Delap, who's still really young. I think Sami Szmodics does that from a deeper area, but having, a proper striker like Broja, not only to get more game time, but as I say, provide Delap with that little bit more support will be really good. So let's just take a look if anything else has developed. Um, Here we are. So Ten Hag says he's very excited by Brave Agate. He's a very good fit. And of course, yeah, it is a priority position that they needed to improve. So it's really good that they've got that done. 50 million in this current climate isn't too bad for a six. So that's all it's about. So right now, so we've got a starting 11 now for Man United. So Onana in goal, Mazraoui on the right hand side. Diogo Dalot can potentially play on the left, but if fit, of course, Luke Shaw plays. For centre-back options, they've got Lissandro Martinez, Mateus de Ligt, Harry Maguire and Lenny Yoro. In the midfield, it's most likely going to be Fernandes, Ugarte and Mainoo, but there is Mount, Casemiro and Eriksen also available. And the front three of Xerxes, Højlund and Garnacho looks really good. Obviously, Diallo available as well. And then Antony and Rashford. I'm not sure it's Champions League quality if they're going to if they're like I don't think they'll qualify for the Champions League this season. I originally predicted them to come seventh, I think. Um, I'd potentially put them a little bit higher with that squad, but still, I think maybe attacking wise, apart from Garnacho, there's not enough ruthlessness in my opinion. Xerxes I haven't seen a lot of course, so I could be proven completely wrong this season, but so far that's how I'm feeling. Just coming out now, Arsenal's Reece Nelson opts to join Ipswich. The final bits are being sorted out for him to join for the entire season. And that's all so far. If we take a look at some other bits, so I just spoke about Manchester United and their left back options. I've just done a little piece on if United are going to be okay with just just those two left back options of Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malacia. Overall, no, I don't think they will. They're heading into the season in a really concerning position, in my opinion. The injury struggles that they both have is going to leave United really vulnerable. Shaw obviously is incredible. We all know he is. And when fit, I think he is one of the best left backs in the league. But obviously, when is he fit? Very, very rarely. And this pattern has followed with Tyrell Malacia as well, who a lot of people forgot even still played for Man United. Diogo Dalot I really rate him, but he's not a left back. He's not left footed. Lissandro Martinez filling in there as well isn't natural. And as I say, yeah, Dalot has done reasonably well, but he is a natural right back, and when overlapping, you need a left-footed left back. That's just for me. I think it also limits like your creative options. If you're on the left-hand side and you're driving down the wing, their fullback is going to know that you're going to want to cut inside and play an in-swinging cross rather than go down to the byline and cut it back. So that automatically puts you at a disadvantage because 9 times out of 10, the opposition know what you're going to do. United's defensive issues last season were ridiculous. They conceded more goals than any other season since 1978-79 season, and of course that stems from their instability at the back. Signings of Mazraoui, who absolutely excellent. I'm going to get onto him in a little bit as well because I do think he's going to offer a lot more of what Ten Hag needs compared to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But once again, it's a right back. I did think that after making that statement of having a bit of depth in the right fullback position, that they'd go and follow in a similar way for left back, but they didn't, unless something comes out soon. But we haven't heard anything, like even a sniff of it today, so I doubt that anything's going to come up in the next hour. This could give hopes for Harry Amas, who is in the academy at the minute. He has showed a lot of promise, but I think to put all that responsibility on a 17-year-old shoulders at the minute is ridiculous. He is the only conventional left back, though, 17 years old, yet to make a United appearance. He did sign from Watford last year, and he is seen as the long-term solution. And he made multiple appearances in pre-season. He did well. His quality in possession is really good. If you can get a chance to go and have a look at him, absolutely go for it. But it is a really big risk, even starting him, who is a more conventional left back, just because, as I say, his age. Failing to address the gap as they have, I think, is going to cost them in the long term, which is potentially why they're not going to reach the Champions League, as I spoke about just a minute ago. But at the end of the day, Ten Hag thinks that it's fine. The recruitment team is a lot better. Obviously, they've brought in Dan Ashworth, who knows what he's doing. So if they think it's fine, then maybe it is. But overall, I'm not sure I rate them doing that entirely. Bringing in Mazraoui, though, I think was a really, really big statement. Obviously, they've replaced Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who headed off to West Ham for 15 million. I'm going to sort of analyse what Mazraoui brings to the table compared to Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka earned the reputation as one of the world's best 1v1 defenders, although he wasn't one of the world's best fullbacks. Taking him on down the wing, you just didn't want to do it. I remember at the FA Cup semi-final last year for Brighton, and I saw him in the starting lineup and I thought, oh, I'll be fine. Matoma couldn't get anywhere near him in terms of quality throughout that game. And Manchester United sat back, in my opinion, throughout the whole game, and then obviously pushed in the final minutes of each half, and then each half extra time, and then got it to penalties. But I think without Wan-Bissaka, they wouldn't have been able to do that because Matoma was playing incredible football, and Wan-Bissaka managed to nullify that threat down the left-hand side. His tackling ability was insane. Statistically, he ranked in the top 1% for interceptions per 90 and in the top 4% of percentage of dribblers tackled among fullbacks last season. Once again, I've pointed out here his defending in the Carabao Cup final in 2023 as well. Same thing with Matoma happened to Alan Saint-Maximin, where he just couldn't get a sniff all game. However, going forward, Wan-Bissaka is nowhere near as good as Mazraoui. Mazraoui is a much more technical player, very well rounded. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He likes to drive forward. Wan-Bissaka won't now need to do that at West Ham. He's obviously got Jared Bowen ahead of him. Sometimes it's going to be Mo Kudus, who are going to get back and support, and also they don't need attacking support because of the way that West Ham play. They've already got plenty of players up top. They don't need Wan-Bissaka, who isn't capable in that area, to come up and help because they've already got enough quality up there. So that's going to suit him far more because he's just going to be told to stick to what he's good at. But Mazraoui, his chance creation over the past 2 years at Bayern Munich far exceed those of Wan-Bissaka's. On a per 90-minute basis, Mazraoui averaged 1.35 chances created compared to Wan-Bissaka's 0.76. and his role as an inverted fullback rather than overlapping fullback meant that he excels at ball progression and making incisive passes between the lines. But he does rank low in crosses for that reason, producing only 1.32 per 90. But once again, from a United standpoint, they've got players doing that already. They've got Garnacho, who you can ping it out to. He can cut inside. He can go down the byline. Amad Diallo, someone that's going to come through the ranks. They've got so much quality in the midfield now. Kobe Mainoo, Fernandez, and of course now Manuel Ugarte protecting that back line. Mazraoui signing obviously is a bit of a risk. His injury history is another one that is a concern. He missed 89 matches due to 20 separate injuries over the last 5 seasons, which averages out to almost 18 games missed per season, which is obviously worrying for a side like United who already struggle with injuries. And if his issues persist, United may find themselves needing to invest further if they're going to then play Dalot at left back. But it is a positive step for United overall. It's a clever signing, which we haven't said a lot about in recent years for United. So I do like it. He is a more complete package than Wan-Bissaka. Maybe defensively he's not as superior, but overall he's going to offer Manchester United so much more. Something that I do want to get onto as well after we check the signings is Matt O'Reilly. He was superb at Celtic, and obviously Brighton have just signed him for at least 25 million. It says undisclosed, but obviously reports have said that it's been at least 25 million paid for him. He got injured 6 minutes into his debut against Crawley on Tuesday night, but I sort of want to in a second talk about what he's going to bring to Brighton when he is back fit. It's going to take until at least early December apparently, but when he is back I think he's going to be excellent for the Albion in that midfield. I did think Billy Gilmour would stay after what happened. Obviously, he's pushed for the deal today. And that has now been here we go by Fabrizio Romano. The latest news on Jadon Sancho that they are close to agreeing a deal on loan with the obligation to buy. Chelsea are also still awaiting a final decision from Napoli's Victor Osimhen, even though there is little more than an hour until the window closes. I don't think that's going to get done. It's been one of the sagas of the summer, but Victor Osimhen's wage bill is just far too high. I think he was offered something like €770,000 a week at Saudi Arabia, which obviously can't be matched by Chelsea, and he didn't even accept. That's all collapsed. He obviously doesn't want that much from Chelsea or more, but they can't afford what he does want at a higher level standard like the Premier League. Ryan Fraser has completed a move to Southampton from Newcastle, signing a 2-year deal. He spent last season on loan at Southampton and said, "I'm probably the happiest man in Southampton at the minute. It's been a long summer, but my number one goal was to get back here, and now that's happened." West Brom and Sheffield United are both keen on Everton's Mason Holgate. They're trying to complete a loan deal for him. Okay, yeah, breaking news. Victor Osimhen is staying at Napoli. So as I've just literally predicted, it's off. I think that was inevitable. Considering a deal that's been spoken about for so long, for so many years, and it was taking this long, I think it was inevitable that it wasn't going to happen. So yeah, Victor Osimhen is staying at Napoli. Jadon Sancho to Chelsea has been here we go, loan deal with an obligation to buy. So that's all done as well. I think this is a really good move. Like, with this Chelsea squad, there's going to be nowhere near as much pressure as there was for Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. Obviously, he came in being an £80 million signing. Really high standard set because of what he managed to do at Borussia Dortmund the first time round. And obviously he didn't live up to that. He fell out with Erik ten Hag, went on loan to Borussia Dortmund, did pretty well last season on loan. But now coming here, it's just a loan move. If it goes badly, whatever, it's fine. Similar to at Borussia Dortmund, no one expected anything because of what happened with Manchester United. So it's going to be the same scenario here. If he does succeed, perfect. the obligation to buy would suggest that they are planning on him being a success. Um, but I think in this style of football under Enzo Maresca, it's gonna impact his career really well. And this was the move he needed. Either Chelsea or Arsenal, I think, would have been really good for him to get that. So uh, that's the news has been broke by Fabrizio Romano. So we are still waiting on an announcement from. But as you all know, here we go is pretty much an announcement anyway. So that is all for now. That's really good that those sort of key deals have been sorted out. And it's just been announced that Chelsea's obligation to buy for Jadon Sancho is on a fee lower than 40 million. So that's a big, big hit for Man United there. Um, but of course, he hasn't lived up to the standards, as I said. Lazio have also signed Samuel Gigot on a 3-year deal from Marseille for 3.5 million euros. So, if we get back to Matt O'Reilly, and then we'll talk a bit about Federico Chiesa, a bit more in depth of what he's going to do. Starting off with O'Reilly, obviously, as I said, absolutely gutting what happened on Tuesday night. Ridiculous foul. I've seen a lot of people talking about uh, Hertzler being inexperienced for starting Matt O'Reilly. I think it's ridiculous. I think that's so easy to say in hindsight. You know, if nothing had happened, it would have been great praise for, oh, it's good to give him minutes before Arsenal. He looked really good, really sharp, blah, blah, blah. Nobody can anticipate that sort of injury happening. He's not going to be back for at least 10 weeks. Realistically, with training, rehab, easing him back in, he's not going to be in the starting 11 playing 90 minutes till December. So nobody can anticipate that that's going to happen. Nobody before the game was saying, don't start Matt O'Reilly because this could happen. So I think it's very easy for people to blame it on Herzler's age now, which was only a matter of time. If something goes wrong, that's automatically what it's going to be pinned on. Um, but I don't think it was a silly decision to play him. I think, to be honest, anyone would do it. You've just signed a new player. If Kadioglu got announced a few days before and wasn't, apparently he's injured now, but if he wasn't, you'd probably started him in a cup game because it's supposed to be a low intensity match. And as I said, nobody can predict that Jay Williams is going to clatter him 6 minutes in. Um, but yeah, when he is back fit and fighting and in our starting 11, he's going to be excellent. So I've done a little bit of a piece on him as well, just to let everyone know, but obviously, of course, mainly Brighton fans, what to expect from him if you haven't seen a lot of him at Celtic. The move from Celtic has been a long time coming. He was linked with Atalanta. I think they put in about 5 bids that were all rejected. Man United wanted him, but he chose Brighton. I think the project now is something that's really appealing to a lot of players. As I said earlier about Gruder, Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen want him. The one of the best teams in Germany and the team that have just done almost a whole season unbeaten. They only lost the Europa League final. Both wanted him, and he turned them down for Brighton. So that says a lot about what's going on here and what Herzler's pull sort of is. There were talks of Mats Hummels coming, which have sort of fizzled out, as I expected they would. As I said earlier, I do think that Brighton do have enough depth at centre back. Webster, I thought, stepped up to the occasion really well. Being captain on Tuesday, so I think he provides enough cover there. Igor as well, I really rate quite highly. But you just wouldn't see us linked with those sort of high caliber players like Mats Hummels a couple of years ago. Um, so yeah, Matt O'Reilly chose Brighton, 23 years of age. He took a big risk when he was young, rejecting a contract extension at Fulham in 2020 and moving to MK Dons in search of first team football. And over the last 3.5 years, he's made big strides, eventually outgrowing Celtic and the Scottish Premiership. Last season in Scotland's top tier, the central midfielder was hugely impressive across the board, and that's backed up by his stats. Only 3 midfielders averaged more open play chances created per 90. He averaged 1.7, and he ranked first for expected assists on a per 90 basis. That was 0.32. He was also top for expected penalty goals per 90 on 0.35. And for touches in the opposition's penalty box per 90 was 7.6. So he was hugely influential going forward. I really like the stat touched in the opposition's box per 90. I think Jeremy Sarmiento got loads the other day just to highlight you know, as you're heading towards goal, they just don't know what to do, and it shows how dominant you are in those key areas. Um, Matt O'Reilly wasn't just the one having shots and playing crosses into the danger zone. No player in the Scottish Premier League bettered his 251 involvements in attacking sequences, and he wasn't responsible for the shot or creating the chance in 99 of those, showing that he was often the one starting the moves as well. As well as being in and around the box, he was potentially picking it up from deeper areas, driving forward, and then playing the pass that led to the other pass that led to the shot. Brighton's been a great place for youngsters to prove themselves in recent years. Obviously, we've seen plenty of players go on and do really well and leave for big profits. McAllister, in my opinion, has been the most successful for us. Obviously, Caicedo, massive fee, but hasn't lived up to it at all. Um, but it's been a great place for players to improve. I think the only areas where it's potentially gone wrong is Dennis Undav, Victor Gyökeres, amongst probably a few others. But 9 times out of 10, Brighton are very good at improving young players. There's a few that we got this year that I was not upset, but disappointed with the loan move. Sarmiento's just been confirmed. Kozia Dubry. Hopefully, I'm not sure if Yasin Ayari has been confirmed, but hopefully he can stay, especially now with the issues that we're going to have as in the midfield for a number 8. But yeah, Matt O'Reilly, 25 million. We were looking for a progressive midfielder to unlock the defences, support attacks, and help press from the front with high energy. And last season, Matt O'Reilly had more assists, goals involvement, and touches in the opposition box than any other player in the Scottish Premiership, which is insane on its own. And then for him to be a midfielder and not a striker as well, they're typically more forward playing stats to be good at, just shows how forward thinking he is. He also won possession in the final third more times than any other player and was the second top goal scorer. Again, all of that as a midfielder. Chelsea wanted him, Girona wanted him, and Atletico Madrid's interest was actually a bid in January. He scored 18 goals, which obviously tremendous in the league, 13 assists, 31 goal involvements was the most in the league. He also got the most touches in the opposition box with 273 and won possession the most in the final third. So I think he is the Pascal Gross replacement. Obviously, he went for 10 million a few weeks ago. Gutted to see him go, of course, club legend. But Matt O'Reilly is the next Pascal Gross, or is going to be the next Pascal Gross when he is fit. I think that, of course, he's going to help support with the defence. I think Baleba, Mats Wiefer are obviously going to be those cover players for the back line. But O'Reilly's going to be there supporting, but also being the one to drive forward and start attacks, as we were seeing from Gross over the last 7 years. So we're obviously going to get on to Federico Chiesa next, but let's just have a look if anything else has progressed. Napoli have just announced Billy Gilmour for 30 million euros plus add-ons. That's annoying. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. Obviously, it was Here We Go a little while ago. I think I can't praise Billy Gilmour highly enough. I think he's absolutely excellent. So it's a shame to see him go. I did think after the United game, maybe he'd stay. I think everyone did, but obviously this morning, I was actually at the Amex this morning, and it's come through on my phone that he's asked for the talks to be reignited. So that's happened. So he joined in 2022 after 5 years at Chelsea, where he won the Champions League, spent 2 years at the Amex, making 60 appearances in all competitions. Fabian Herzler said, I've thoroughly enjoyed the short time I've worked with Billy. He's a great professional and I wish him all the best for the future. Obviously, Gilmour is the second Premier League signing Napoli have made after fellow Scotsman Scott McTominay joined from Man United earlier today. Oh dear. Never mind. He's excellent. He's really good. The transfer window is just shut in Ligue 1. All the news now at the minute is that Victor Osimhen is definitely not going. And that Billy Gilmour is. Jadon Sancho, as I said, that's all done. Daniele De Rossi is pushing for Mario Hermoso as a new centre-back option. He's also received a bid from Galatasaray, the Atletico Madrid centre-back. So that is the current progress so far. Let's just see there's nothing else before we get on to Chiesa. Here we go. Fulham have agreed a deal to sign Ernest Nuamar on a permanent deal from Lyon. The verbal agreement is done. They're working on the paperwork. There is 1 hour left, just under 1 hour left. Let's have a look. To be fair, Serie A is going to be a nice challenge for Gilmore. You know, a new league. He's going to play week in, week out with like a familiar face in Scott McTominay. Yeah, 54 minutes left. Osimhen totally off. So if we get on to, let's have a look at how much time we got. Let me check. Okay, perfect. Right, we'll go on to Federico Chiesa. I'm waiting to see the Ivan Toney developments. That's the big one for me at the minute, just because I think he had a lot to say when he came back from his ban, and it's actually gone totally the opposite way to what he thought it would be. So first of all, we'll actually get on to Tony straight away because you know when he came back from his ban, he was saying Arsenal want me. You know, Real Madrid will probably put a bid in, and actually we've got all the way to deadline day, and he was doing his medical for Al Ali today, which I'm sure Saudi League you can say you can say whatever you want about the Saudi League. This isn't what Ivan Toney wanted beforehand. And of course, there is now the factor of is he ever going to get in the national team again? We've seen players like Jordan Henderson totally pretty much exiled from the national team of Gareth Southgate, sort of saying, you know, he's not playing at a high enough level, which is potentially what's going to happen to Tony, who I must admit I don't rate him as highly as maybe other people do. I definitely don't rate him as highly as he rates himself, but he you know he did provide big moments for us. So why can't Tony get that move to a bigger club? Obviously, firstly, the age is a factor. 28 years old, he doesn't now fit the profile that most teams want. Arsenal focused on younger targets such as Victor Gyökeres. Chelsea have looked at Victor Osimhen, and Tottenham as well. They bought Dominic Solanke, who is 2 years younger, 26 years of age, and the value as well that was being held for him was about 60 to 65 million. I think that's in pounds, and I think Brentford have got 40 million euros. So that's about what 35 million pounds now. So it's halved what they've got. He only had 1 year left in his contract anyway, and what they were initially looking to get for him was impossible for other people to do because of the financial constraints in the Premier League. He obviously does still have the option of Al Ali. I think his Brentford future, even if he didn't want this to go through now, is pretty much done and dusted. Obviously, Thomas Frank saying that he wouldn't pick him because of, you know, sort of the news surrounding him. And to be honest, they've looked fine without him. I think Wissa is pretty good. I think Mbuemo offers loads going forward. Fabio Carvalho is a good signing. I would like to have seen perhaps one more attacking signing. If we have a look at the players that Brentford have brought in, just see if there's anything that I may have missed. Brentford, here we go. Oh, obviously Igor Thiago, who they bought in a little while ago from Club Bruges for 30 million. That he's since been injured, so maybe they could get someone else in. They've improved other areas by bringing in Sepp van der Berg as well. Benjamin Frederick, Julian Eystone, personally haven't heard of. But they've made some good steps, and if they can bring anybody else in today, it would definitely be a step in the right direction. I personally think Brentford are going to go down. I do really rate Mbuemo. I really rate Fabio Carvalho. I do like Wissa, but even with or without Tony, I don't think Tony's as good as most people say he is. Wissa is all right, can't do it all on his own. And Mbuemo is just one other injury away from totally impacting his club season again. You saw he got injured in the 2-1 win against Brighton last season. I think Jack Hinchelwood scored the winner. And Mbuemo got injured, and it was just a total just fall for their season from that moment on. And Mbuemo offers a lot more than I think people realise. And is like football is so unpredictable. If something happens to him, you're then relying on just Wissa and Carvalho. Carvalho's not going to get you many goals. It's his first season starting first team football. He could get an injury from the extra load. Um, there's just so much that can go wrong for Brentford, but I think bringing in a little bit of money for Tony is good for them, and if they can get anyone else, that'd be good as well. Um, yeah, Ernest Nimar has been a here we go, so that's done as well. Southampton have submitted a deal sheet for Maxwell Cornet to gain extra time to complete the move for the West Ham winger. If submitted between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., a completed deal sheet provides clubs with 2 extra hours to conclude proposed moves. Southampton have agreed a loan deal to sign Cornet from the Hammers, and the versatile left-sided player has undergone his medical. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as to whether Southampton can get the deal finished for him, if they can get that deal sheet in so they get a bit of extra time. Um, Deals such as that, where maybe they're given those extra 2 hours, I will update you on the INMR Twitter page. So I believe that is INMR journalist, no dot, the dots on Instagram. So yeah, any deals that maybe go past the 11 o'clock when the stream ends, I'll just keep you updated on those as they come. Ivan Perisic to Como is almost there, verbal agreement done, and here we go coming soon as documents are ready. Fabrizio Romano has updated us on the Jadon Sancho fee. The obligation buy clause is around 25 million. Wow. So even more so now, if he's a success, if he's not a success, 25 million really isn't that much for an English winger. So I think that's a good bit of business from Chelsea there, which we haven't been saying much so far in this window. Spurs have made some really good appointments this window. There's a podcast coming out in 2 weeks' time, 13th of September, talking about Spurs signings and 3 players that I think can help them achieve Champions League football. So if I talk to you a little bit about them, just sort of preview what's coming up with them. Wilson Odegaard, I think, is going to be excellent. I know he didn't have the best debut, but his chance creation stats, his dribbling numbers are really good. Versatility wise, he can play on the left, right, and as a 10. I think this is going to be really key in a Tottenham side where he's not going to get loads and loads of minutes. So he's going to, his preferred position is the left. He's not going to get in on the left straight away because his son's there. So the fact that he can play in different positions on the right hand side, I don't think that's a cemented stop with Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski on that side. That's not a cemented spot in the starting 11. So that's somewhere where he can come in. As the number 10 as well, maybe. I mean, you've got Madison there. But of course, as I say, the versatility is key for him getting that chance in the first team. His creativity at Burnley was something that really stood out in quite a negative season for them. He led in key attacking metrics like chances created from open play with 31, and he also had 104 touches in the opposition's box. And those are impressive numbers wherever you play. But given he was playing in a Burnley team that barely had any possession and control in matches, is even more impressive. 36.2% of his carries were progressive last season, which was the highest proportion of any player in the Premier League, highlighting his ability to drive forward and create opportunities, even in a side that were battling relegation. So that's a little bit on Wilson Odegaard and what he will bring. As I say, podcast 13th of September, 5 o'clock, Friday, as usual. I'll go into a little bit more depth about Wilson Odegaard and what he can bring and how Ange Postecoglou can get the best out of him this season. Archie Gray is someone they brought in who people have been unbelievably excited about after his time at Leeds. He primarily played as a right back but had occasional stints in centre mid. Defensive duels are really good, 1v1 defending really good, and his experience as a fullback honed his ability to cover and protect wide areas effectively. He gets really tight to his opponents, which obviously in this high pressing system that Tottenham have is going to be really, really good. His anticipation is brilliant. He intercepts so many passes per 90. Obviously, there's still a lot to improve on. He is still quite young, but first Premier League season at Tottenham in a squad where he can definitely go in and cement a role there. I think it's a really good move for him. He's a highly capable passer in the forward areas. He has a high rate of passes into the final third, which shows his ability to exploit spaces and sort of have that, obviously not Kevin De Bruyne ability wise in terms of that level of quality, but that sort of idea of seeing the passes that people won't see and that maybe defences won't see coming. Um, he's got a lot of variety in his passes as well. So it might be a outside of the boot through ball, it could be like a little clip into the box. You don't really know what's coming from him. Um, in Leeds' 4-2-3-1 formation last season, Gray often pushed up high during the build-up. So he likes to play in an advanced role, whether he's in centre mid or right back. He delivered the fourth highest number of passes into the final third per season, once again highlighting that forward-thinking approach. And obviously we've got Solanke as well, who was the big one in terms of signings. He had a career-defining season at Bournemouth last year. I think bringing in Iraola just made his career explode. Um, he'd really struggled in his early years. Even after joining Bournemouth, he only managed 3 goals in his first 42 appearances, but last year he got 19 league goals. Solanke's improvement was driven by his ability to get into goal-scoring positions more frequently, which is all thanks to Iraola's ideas of how a number 9 should play. He averaged more shots, non-penalty goals, and touches in the opposition box per 90 than in any other previous season, and those stats were putting him amongst some of the top strikers in the league, which obviously highlighted that readiness for a move. Solanke's off-the-ball work as well is something that's attracted Postecoglou to him. Richarlison had a mixed campaign last season, and his pressing stats, his aerial ability, is far inferior to Solanke's. Solanke led the league in pressures in the final third, and pressures in the final third leading to a turnover last season. So this sort of relentlessness when defending and trying to get that quick transition is something that Postecoglou obviously loved. So I think he's going to be a big success there. I think people maybe have let him slip under the radar because his debut, he just couldn't get that goal, and he had so many clear-cut opportunities to get that goal. Probably nerves played a part in it, and he just couldn't do it. But he's going to be excellent once he gets off the mark. So Tottenham, I think in my Premier League prediction, I put them fourth. I'm going to stick with that. I was sort of teetering between fourth and third. I put Villa third, so I'm sort of still unsure as to whether I should swap those. Villa obviously have got the Champions League. That draw came out yesterday. Some really, really good games in there. I'm going to do a article on some of those games in a couple of days, some games to watch out for because some of them are just ridiculous. I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is, of course, the Real Madrid versus Liverpool one. Updates on Twitter: Raheem Sterling's loan move is now being finalised by lawyers. I think that's a really, really good deadline day deal. Everton's Mason Holgate is expected to join West Brom. Sheffield United were also interested in signing the defender, but it looks like West Brom is going to be his destination. Sterling very, very close, yeah. We've seen that. And there is a little update on why Chelsea are moving late for Sancho, so the deal is very close to being agreed. This is from Sky Sports chief reporter. He says, I know it will come as a surprise to Chelsea fans who will be scratching their heads thinking, do we need Jadon Sancho with so many wide players already, including João Felix and Pedro Neto? What it seemed they really needed was an out-and-out 9, which of course we already know was Victor Osimhen, which has now fallen through. The reason they've gone for Jadon Sancho is that it was a deal too good to turn down, which obviously we've already spoken about. 25 million that's going to be for a player that signed just a few years ago for 85 million. I think there's a no-lose situation for Chelsea there. 25 million at the end of the day is peanuts for a team like Chelsea. And that is all that they've got so far. Oh, there's one more. Why the wait for Tony's Saudi move? Ivan Toney and Brentford are waiting for confirmation from Al Ali that the move is done. As far as the club and player are concerned, everything is in place for his 40 million switch to Saudi Arabia to go through. The Saudi Pro League window closes on Monday, the 2nd of September, so that confirmation of him signing can come anytime in the next 3 days. But with the deal effectively done, why has the signature not arrived yet? This morning, Sky Sports News reported that everyone was essentially waiting for Victor Osimhen and Al Ali. here we are, 2 hours to the deadline, and everyone is still waiting for them. Well, we now know that Osimhen is staying put and Ivan Toney is done, but they've got 3 days to announce it, so there's no rush for them from their point of view. Perfect. Let's just have a look for any comments. Perfect. So that's everything so far. So what I'll do in a second, we'll do another quick 3-minute break. Um, and here we are, live chat. Perfect. Hey, it's Benji. Do you remember me? Yes, I do. How you doing? Mark, very informative. Thank you. Lovely work, Shizzy. Sanchez, here we go. Sancho. What do you think of Ramsdale joining Southampton? I really like it. I'm a big fan of Ramsdale. I've seen loads of his clip in recent days about, where he's talking to Ian Wright and he's saying, "Oh, I can't focus on a game for 90 minutes." And you do think maybe that was the moment where, you're looking at Ian Wright's face and he sort of can't believe that an Arsenal goalkeeper's just said that. At the time when David Raya was brought in, I did think it was unfair on Ramsdale because he did have such a good season. But obviously, as the season progressed for Arsenal, Raya did really well. Most clean sheets in the league. When Ramsdale did come in for those Brentford games where Raya couldn't play, he slipped up, he made mistakes. I think this is a brilliant opportunity for him to get his confidence up. He's going into a team where they're not expected to stay up, in my opinion. I think I put them 19th. Um, so there's not really a lot of pressure because he's definitely going to be better than what they already had in goal. That's a given. And if he's not, then you could never predict that. 25 million for Aaron Ramsdale, England goalkeeper when he's got his opportunity. I really like it. Ramsdale is a good one. Yeah, I totally agree. There's nothing that can really go wrong with that deal. Um, and he could be the key. If he regains his confidence, he could really pull off something special with Southampton. So it's an exciting move for him. Obviously, it would be nice to see him getting game time because there's no doubt that when he is confident, he is an outstanding goalkeeper. So we are about just under 45 minutes away. 45? Just under 45 minutes away from the window shutting. So I'll be back in 3 minutes for a few more updates, and then we're going to talk about the window winners and if Arsenal need a number 9. We're going to talk a little bit about Mikel Merino as well. So I'll see you in a few minutes, and we will talk about all of that and any updates that happen. See you then. Hello and welcome back to Transfer Deadline Day Live. We are currently just over half an hour away from the window closing. So far, the confirmed news has obviously been the Victor Osimhen deal collapsing, Jadon Sancho very close, and Raheem Sterling as well, almost done. So what we're going to talk about now as we hit the home straight for the deadline is Arsenal and if they need a striker. So a lot has been said of Arsenal not bringing in a number 9 this season, but I do actually genuinely think they can win it without a number 9. So they've brought in Raya permanently, they've brought in Calafiori 42 million and Mikel Merino for 31 and a bit million pounds. But the big question, of course, from everyone is can they win it without a traditional number 9? So, under Mikel Arteta, Arsenal have embraced a fluid attack with Kai Havertz playing the role as the false 9 up top. Havertz's versatility and ability to link the play offer Arsenal sort of a different dimension in the attack. It's very similar to what Roberto Firmino's role was at Liverpool. Last season, Havertz was one of Arsenal's top goal scorers, contributing in 13 goals and providing that physical presence up top. However, obviously, compared to somebody like Erling Haaland, who scored 27 goals last season, that's not really good enough. Whereas Arsenal's top goal scorer was Bukayo Saka, he only managed 16. And Haaland's dominance highlights the value of having that traditional number 9 who can consistently deliver in front of goal. But Arsenal's tactical flexibility under Arteta could be the answer to the success. Gabriel Jesus is regaining fitness. Leandro Trossard's incredibly versatile as well. Arsenal do have the potential to adapt well enough to win the league this time round. I think in the end, Arsenal's title hopes are going to be more on efficiency rather than raw firepower up top. But if Havertz and other players like Trossard and Gabriel Jesus can, be on top form in key parts of the season, they won't need that traditional 9. They've got Tottenham coming up in a few weeks. They've got City coming up. These are all key games to test that theory. But I do think that they're not going to need that classic striker. But obviously, of course, if they don't win the league, then that shout for them needing it is going to be louder than ever. And I think if this season doesn't go well for them and they don't win the league, then that's definitely the time you start looking at it and going, okay, the priority next season is a Victor Gyökeres. It needs to happen. I want to talk about Kai Havertz because I saw something the other day about his stats at Arsenal compared to when he plays striker and midfield. So there's been 14 occasions since joining Arsenal in which Kai Havertz has played at striker. In those games, he's had 17 goal involvements. That's 9 goals and 8 assists. He's only had an XG of 7.46 as well. So he got 9 goals from that 7.46. Though they're low quality chances and he's making the most out of them. Havertz played 24 games as a midfielder and 14 as a striker in the Premier League for Arsenal. In terms of shots, he had 37 in both of those. So 37 shots in 24 games as a midfielder, 37 shots in 14 games as a striker. But as a striker, he's had 19 shots on target and just 10 when he was playing in midfield. And as a midfielder, his XG was 5.33, whilst as a striker, of course, it was 7.46. When playing as a striker, his shot accuracy almost doubled. It was 51.35% compared to 20.07% in midfield. He is a much better forward player than I think people actually realise. I think people think because it's Kai Havertz and the reputation that he holds for not many good reasons at points during his career, people assume he can't be that focal point of Arsenal's attack. When actually, yes, he can. He's like I say, he's not an Erling Haaland. He's not going to get you 30 goals a season. He's not going to necessarily just walk you through games, but he definitely is somebody that they're not totally out of it in attack and in that number 9 slot. He's got really good aerial ability, and if it doesn't work out, then they have got somebody like Bukayo Saka on the right hand side, someone like Leandro Trossard on the left, who are just really, really clinical. And I don't think that winning the league is all put on having a number 9. Whether or not they have one this season, nobody can be surprised if they don't win it because they're coming up against perfection in Manchester City. So that's my thoughts on the whole number 9 thing. Yes, it would have been good, but it's not the end of the world. In terms of the players they've brought in, I'm not going to analyse David Raya because he's been there a season. We all know what he brings. But Mikel Merino and Ricardo Calafiori, obviously, as I said, I've done podcasts on both of those. So if maybe you've seen the Euros but you want to know a bit more about them, or you didn't, or you just want to know how they work and how they're going to fit into Arteta's system, you can go and check those out. The Mikel Merino one is really recent, so that'll be quite high up. And what I'll do is put the link for the Calafiori one in the description as well, so you can go and click the link to watch that. So Marino obviously won the Euros with Spain this summer and was announced as an Arsenal player very recently, where he'll play under fellow Spaniard Mikel Arteta. Unlike Arteta, who struggled to make his mark at Sociedad, Marino has become a crucial player for the club, and he obviously played that key role in Spain's Euro victory, where he scored the 119th minute winner against Germany in the quarter-finals. He's a left-footed midfielder, primarily playing in the number 8 in a midfield 3 or 4. He's also excelled in that deeper pivot role, so he's a versatile midfielder, and he's often part of the double pivot. His standout attribute is his ability to deliver penetrative passes, whether breaking defensive lines or threading through balls. Typically, Marino is his team's most forward thinker, which obviously suits Arteta's style. You see players like Odegaard playing through those brilliant passes that nobody can see. I remember his pass through to Trossard in the Champions League, I believe, last season. And nobody could have ever spotted the pass, but Odegaard did it. You're going to see a lot of that with Marino as well. When he gets the ball, he only wants to go forward. He wants to progress up the pitch and create an opportunity for his teammates. One of his strengths is his movements inside the channels, where he often finds pockets of space to receive the ball. His well-timed runs allow him to collect passes in these areas, where he can showcase that forward passing ability you're going to see this season. I'd really like to see him start on the weekend over Thomas Partey, but obviously people might rate Thomas Partey higher than I do. But Marino, I think, is going to be an excellent addition to that midfield alongside Rice and Odegaard. He's most comfortable passing from the left-hand side, but he is equally capable of doing it from the right. His passing range is great as well. He can do long, short, whatever, into feet, over the top. His play is so unpredictable because he's so well-rounded in his passing. Out of possession, he's very aggressive. He likes to challenge early, which disrupts the play. Sometimes that's going to be a good thing, sometimes it's going to concede a foul. But one thing you can guarantee with Marino, whether he concedes a free kick or wins the ball back, he's disrupting the play regardless, isn't he? If you concede a free kick, at least the other team aren't countering. So that's the positive that I'd take from that. He can play in the number 8 or defensive midfield role, as I say. His high positioning in a number 8 role often draws out defenders, creating space for his teammates in the attacking third. In 5 of the last 6 seasons, he led at Sociedad in through balls and was among the top players passes into the final third. Even when he was playing along David Silva, Martin Odegaard, he was still top in those stats. He normally plays in a 4-3-3 formation or a 4-2-3-1, but there have been occasions where Sociedad have opted for a 4-4. This more central role for him allowed for more intricate passing, but that obviously only allowed for him to have one supporting player in the midfield, which made it more difficult through balls. But he's still capable in those areas. So tactically, he's very versatile as well, which is going to be perfect for Arteta, who's constantly changing the mould of the Arsenal identity to sort of stay ahead of the competition or catch up with Man City, but get closer and closer to eventually winning that Premier League. And in terms of Calafiori, we've already spoken about it a little bit earlier, in terms of what he brings and whether he's going to suit the centre-back or left-back role. So we're going to get on to the window winners, I believe. We've got 25 minutes until the window closes. Yeah, we've got the top 5 rumours, but obviously they have totally changed. Jadon Sancho is pretty much done. Victor Osimhen is off. Let's have a look at the others. Sterling's pretty much there. Tony we're waiting on. Most of them are done, and if not, we're waiting. Agate's done. Here we go. Breaking news. Lyon have signed Wilfried Zaha on a season-long loan from Galatasaray. Wolves have signed Andre from Fluminense, €22 million fee plus €3 million in add-ons. Roma have signed Manu Kone from Borussia. Have they? Borussia Dortmund. From Borussia Dortmund on a 5-year deal, €20 million plus €5 million on add-ons. And 15 minutes ago, it was announced that Victor Osimhen is set to be sidelined by Napoli until January. He will not be involved in Antonio Conte's squad. That's all the latest from there. Let's have a look at Fabrizio Romano if he's got anything new to say. Victor Osimhen's proposal was set out 2 hours ago, so it's Danjuma has been authorised to travel and complete the Girona move from Villarreal. I don't know if that's a great move or not. I didn't really notice him in the pre-season match. Obviously, it is only one game in pre-season. Brighton won 4-0 at the Amex against Villarreal. I didn't notice much of him, and I didn't really rate him at Tottenham. So we'll see how he gets on at Girona. Crystal Palace agree a deal with Nottingham Forest to sign Matt Turner as their new goalkeeper. He is of course the replacement for Sam Johnston, who signed for Wolves earlier today. He's currently doing his medical. Hansi Flick has dispelled rumours for Eric Garcia to join Girona. He says Eric will stay at Barca and the story is closed. And an exclusive from Fabrizio Romano, Wolves agreed to sign 2007-born talent Sahid Olagunju from Chelsea for the academy. That's a done deal and to be signed today. Buy option clause into Carlos Salone's loan deal will be €20 million. West Ham and PSG have agreed that fee. PSV have agreed a deal to sign Manchester City winger Joel Ndala on loan with a mandatory buy clause. The deal is in place between all parties with a buyback clause and sell-on clause being discussed at the moment. Perfect. So that is everything of late. The latest one being Zaha to Lyon. Arsenal could potentially need a deal sheet for Raheem Sterling to give them the extra 2 hours. Wolves complete that deal as we've already said. Rennes have signed French midfielder Ahamada on a season-long loan from Crystal Palace, and Leeds have signed fullback Isaac Schmidt from St Gallen. He signed a 4-year deal. Real Sociedad are finalising the deal for Aguerd from West Ham. That's a loan move, as we said earlier, for the season. And if we just take a look at some of Sterling's stats throughout his career in the Premier League, 379 games played, 123 goals scored, 63 assists, 228 minutes between each goal, 4 Premier League titles. I mean, he's definitely got that title winning experience that Arsenal need. Having somebody in that squad that's been there and done it so many times, got the t-shirt, he knows what he's doing in these sort of situations towards the back end of the season. I think it's a really great move for them. We'll just have a look if there's anything else we potentially have missed. 20 minutes to go now, so deals are gonna be coming out thick and fast across all platforms. It's been a very busy window. All the bulk of the good stuff has happened, obviously, in the last week or so. Here we are. Yeah, and it's official from Sky Sports. Chelsea set to give up on Osimhen deal. The Blues have made a final offer but are still waiting a response. So they've just been pretty much ignored for that one. The big one now we are waiting on is, of course, Jadon Sancho and Raheem Sterling. Let's see if there's anything else we have missed. I don't believe there is. So we can have a look at the window winners, who I can reveal are Brighton. Now, that's not out of bias. If we go through now, Brighton's transfer window, and I can talk about this until the January transfer window, to be honest, but I'll try and keep it short and sweet as the transfers come in. So I've chosen Brighton to win the transfer window, not because I support them, not because I'm biased, basically, but um, the players we've brought in: Yankuba Minty, Ibrahim Osman, Mats Weaver, Malik Yalkure, Amario Kozadubri, Braden Gruder, Jorginho Ruta, Matt O'Reilly, Ferdi Kadioglu. Key players that we've let out are obviously Valentin Barco on loan to Sevilla, Pascal Gross leaving to Borussia Dortmund, Dennis Undav to Stuttgart for 30 million. I think that's probably it on key transfers. Buonanotte on loan to Leicester. Cozy Dubry we let back out on loan to Blackburn. Sarmiento to Burnley. Cole Rushworth, very highly rated young goalkeeper. He's on loan to Hull. That's been announced today. And that's about it for the outgoings. So the incomings, I mean, Yankuba Mente, in my opinion, is the best one we've got. I spoke about him a little bit earlier. He was ridiculous for Feyenoord last season. If I just take a look at the article I wrote so I can get everything correct. So to read the full article, if you search inmrfootball.co.uk and then there's a little search bar in the corner, and you can just search Minty's name, or if you go to the feature tab under news, you can find it there. So we signed him obviously for 30 million. Last season was absolutely ridiculous. I spoke about some of his shot creating stats, his goal contributions last season, his pressing, all really, really good. Obviously, with Minty, the thing is, he's already been absolutely superb in Europe. He was one of the best in the Eredivisie. He fits the Brighton system perfectly. A forward thinking winger. Another one a proper winger. And I mean, the players like Jeremy Doku, Savinho, Pedro Neto argue like just fun to watch. Riyad Mahrez was like the best example from a few years ago, I think. But Jeremy Doku's that now for Manchester City, like just bags of pace, loves the skill, and Minty is that. He's just ridiculously fast, loves to go forward, creates opportunities, gets the goals himself. I think he could be a key player in helping Brighton reach the heights that they did under De Zerbi in 2022-23. Ibrahim Osman, I haven't seen a lot of him. I think he was a little bit disappointing in Japan. In terms of, we saw such great stuff from Minty. Um, Amario Kozadubri got 2 goals in his debut, and then Osman was sort of just there, not really contributing anything. Um, just nothing that I really thought was excellent. And I did see sort of a loan move come in at the Villarreal game. He didn't come on, unused sub. So it'll be good to see how he gets on at Feyenoord. Mats Weaver, another one from Feyenoord, 25 million. He, of course, made that mistake against Everton, which led to the penalty that was cancelled out. But I think he got better as that game went on. He's a little bit injured at the minute, so he didn't play against United. We're not too sure when he's going to be back. But from what I've seen from him at Feyenoord, which is pretty limited, to be honest, but from what I have seen, and then obviously taking a look at his overall season's like stats and the important stats, it looks like he's going to pay off. And I think if you can already see what Minty's doing, and he was part of that Feyenoord system, Weaver's not going to be far off. Malik Yalkure, I didn't see a lot of him. We obviously bought him in for 6 million, but he's another one for the future. So you've just got to trust Tony Bloom with that one. Cozy Dubry was highly praised as the next Bukayo Saka. Some of his goals were very Saka-esque in Japan. Got him on free transfer, you can't go wrong there. Braden Gruder, spoke about him a little bit earlier, of course, with the analysis, 25 million. I'm still excited to see a lot more from him because what I have seen is very limited. I'm just trusting off of Brighton's fans' word of mouth at the moment. Jorginho Ruta obviously played a little bit against Manchester United. Initially, I think his very first touch was he tried to pluck it out the sky, and it wasn't a good touch at all. And I was a bit like, oh God, have we really paid 40 million for someone with the first touch of a trampoline? But we haven't. I've taken he got into the game, he grew into it, and taken a look at what he did at Leeds. It's going to be really good stuff from him. Matt O'Reilly, of course, we've spoken about as well. massive shame. We'll just have to wait and see. At Christmas, Ferdy Kadioglu was the one that I was waiting for all summer, and it finally came. He was at the Amex on Tuesday night for the Crawley game, um, which was a real shock. Walking, up the steps and trying to find your seat, and you look up and the new signings there. But he's somebody I'm really excited for because I think I spoke about him in an Arsenal podcast because he was linked with them just before the end of the season. Um, and I said, how great of a signing he would be for a club like Arsenal, filling in that left back spot that's obviously now been done by Jurriën Timber and Riccardo Calafiori. So the fact that I personally looked at him last season and would put him in a squad like Manchester United or Arsenal, for him then to come to Brighton, I think he's going to be excellent. And to be honest, he's probably the player. Him and Minty are probably the players that I know the most about. I think I've known more about Ferdy Kadioglu for longer, but those two are the two that I'm most excited about at the moment. Um, and I just think we've gone about our business really, really well. Um, it's always been clever. There's some breaking news just come out, so I'll wrap this up really quickly. It's always been very clever. We've saved up our money from recent years. There was talks of bringing in one more striker. I'd have liked one more number 8 just because Gilmore's gone, but obviously it's too late. But it gives the chance to players like Ayari to showcase what they can do. Right, on to the breaking news as we enter the last 10 to 15 minutes. Palace complete Nketiah signing. Crystal Palace have completed the signing of Eddie Nketiah. The striker arrives from Arsenal for a fee of up to £30 million, with the Gunners retaining a significant sell-on clause. I did an article on him yesterday, day before, tactically explaining why he is perfect for Crystal Palace. So, once again, I'll put a link for that in the description on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. Forest signed Brazilian centre-back Morato. Nottingham Forest have completed the signing of Benfica defender Morato. He joins for 15 million and has signed a 5-year deal. So, nice Brazilian partnership there with Mario and Morato for Nottingham Forest. And just coming out now is Sterling has arrived at the Arsenal training ground. The Chelsea winger is hoping to complete a loan move after being left out of Enzo Maresca's first team plans. That's been ruthless, by the way. Like, the way that it's just, yeah, you're either, if you're not with me, you're training with the 23s for the season if you don't get a move. I don't mind it. I think it needed to be done because the squad is just too stacked. But a really ruthless way of doing it. But maybe that sort of style of if you like it or get out is what's going to bring them success because they're not at the level that Chelsea should be at of late. Dundee have signed Burnley Adewumi until January. That's a loan deal. Robin Gosens has just joined Fiorentina on a loan move from Berlin. Victor Osimhen's relationship with Napoli is completely broken. He will not even be a part of the first team squad if he stays, which we already knew. I just don't know how that deal didn't get done. I mean, it's so obvious that those two just don't gel, the club and the player. So I just don't get how it's taken so long. No, so British in over an hour now. Um, let's have a look. That Fofana looking likely to stay at Chelsea unless something changes very quickly. Sunderland are willing to sign him on loan. Wow. Eddie Nketiah, that's a brilliant signing. Chelsea's offer to Victor Osimhen has been revealed. €4 million per season guaranteed, plus another 4 million in bonuses. That's 2 million for Champions League qualification and 2 for goals and appearances. But that 4 million guaranteed is less than half of his Napoli salary, which obviously come to a conclusion. Let's have a look at what's coming through now. That's Hummels to Brighton is not deadline dependent, and there is no clarity on Jakob Moder just yet. There's still doubt around Maxwell Cornet. 9 minutes to go now, so this is where they all start coming through as quick as possible. Celtic agree 1 million for McCowan with Dundee. 26-year-old midfielder has verbally agreed terms on a long-term contract. They're now finalising the paperwork. I think Raheem Sterling definitely is going to need a deal sheet. If he's just arrived with 10 minutes to spare. Let's have a look. Perfect. So, final few minutes of the window. I've chosen Brighton as window winners. Arsenal, I don't think need a striker. Obviously, it would be nice, but it's not the end of the world. They've still had a very good window. Um, Ernest Neymar to Fulham is now on the verge of collapsing after new issues. That deal is currently off, according to Fabrizio Romano. Lo Celso is signing right now for Real Betis. So that's also been confirmed. So we are just waiting on the last 7.5 minutes. We are just waiting on confirmation for Jadon Sancho and Rafinha. Now this is like a deadline day from 4 years ago, not one that's before. Chelsea didn't go for any other strikers because they really wanted to try for Osimhen until the end, and they weren't convinced of alternatives such as Ivan Toney and John Duran. Raheem Sterling's at the training ground to undergo his medical, so he hasn't even done that yet. They're definitely going to need the deal sheet to get that over the line. Brighton, the second highest spenders, I believe, still then on 100 million. Only Chelsea spent more this window. Let's see, Mark Gahey totally clapped. Joe Gomez, it's a shame that he didn't get a move. That was someone that I really thought with the whole Mark Gahey thing collapsing with Newcastle. I did think that that would open the door for Joe Gomez. I think they wanted around 40 million for him. I don't know why more people didn't go for that. I mean, he didn't. I think there was a stat that yes, he played like 51 games last season, but only 17 of those were starts in the Premier League. Um, and they were primarily at left back. He even did stints in centre mid rather than in central defence. So that's a shame that he didn't get a move because I do think that most clubs in Europe he would start for. I do really rate him as a defender. So yeah, I'm surprised that nothing came through for him in the maybe as issues come through the season. Newcastle are going to have to look at something. West Brom have confirmed the season-long loan of Mason Holgate from Everton. That's all completed. That's quite quickly. Clubs are working on the documents for Raheem Sterling. That's the big one to watch right now. Raheem Sterling. Yeah, Mason Holgate. The latest news. He was at West Brom for the second half of the 2018-19 campaign in the Championship. Now 27 years old, returning to the club. There we are. 5 minutes to go. This is where they start pouring in. Let's have a look. Yeah, 9 posts. Let's have a look at some Sterling stats. That is the big move. So if we take a look at some of these stats, 2023-20, he had 49 shots with a 6.8 XG and 8 non-penalty goals. Shot assists as well. I do think that experience that he's got, I mean, his carries into the penalty area are great as well. So not only is he going to be that experienced goal scorer, just that experienced player all around, he's also going to provide a bit of a creative threat as well for Arsenal. I think Arsenal have got plenty of depth this season. I'd make the argument of even Trossard starting over Martinelli, but that's for another article/podcast. 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go until the window shuts. Still nothing yet on confirmation of and Sancho. Celtic have completed another deal, 11 million for Arne Engels from Augsburg. The 20-year-old midfielder has signed a 4-year deal with the Scottish champion, so I can only assume that is the Matt O'Reilly replacement there. So we'll see how he gets on. That is subject to international clearance, though. In terms of the Andre signing, if we take a look, so Wolves have just bought in Andre for, is it 20 million? I just said 22 million. So if we take a look at some of his stats since his debut in September 2020, he ranked first in possession, one in the Brazilian Serie A with 756. Top for successful passes, 6,574. Second for touches, 8,440. Fourth for successful dribbles on 164. 10th for tackles on 183. And 11th for duels won on 554. He's going to be a great signing for Wolves, and I think he's going to really break up that play nicely for Wolves in the midfield. They've had a bit of a shaky start to the season. A lot of critics on Gary O'Neill already, despite the great work that he did last season. So hopefully provides them with a bit more defensive solidity in terms of the cover they've got. Can start to progress this season, because so far it's not been nearly the standards that we know they can achieve. Obviously, it's difficult not having that goal scorer in Pedro Neto, who's such a threat going forward. But I think that's a really, really good deal for Wolves. We are in the final 90 seconds of the transfer window. Saudi Arabia deal for Ivan Toney is probably not going to be complete, but they've got until Monday to announce that deal. So we can assume that that's pretty much done. Fulham have just submitted a deal sheet for Reiss Nelson. Ipswich's move for Reiss Nelson is off after the Arsenal winger had a change of heart. Fulham have now submitted a deal sheet, meaning they've got until 1 a.m. to complete a deal for the 24-year-old. Ipswich are also set to fail in their bid to sign Armando Broja from Chelsea, meaning they will end a frustrating deadline day with no new signings. That is big for Ipswich. And if something goes wrong this season in terms of their goal scoring, you could potentially look back at this moment and say, well, there's your goal scorer in Broja. There's more attacking threat in Reiss Nelson, and they now aren't going to have that. That's a real shame for them, but it could be a really good move for Fulham. Yeah, Fabrizio Romano's just announced it as well. Both deals are off for the Ipswich targets. The window is now shut in La Liga, and we are 25 seconds away from it shutting here in the Premier League. Real Betis agreed the deal for Lo Celso. He's expected to travel to Spain on, well, tomorrow now. So that's done. That'll be all sorted. It'll be good for Spurs that he's gone. Okay, final 10 seconds now. I do believe that's it. So yeah, Ipswich have had an absolute in the final minute. Raheem Sterling, we could potentially see overnight be confirmed as an Arsenal player for Jadon Sancho. Ipswich's double deal for Reiss Nelson and Armando Broja have fallen through in the final moments. Victor Osimhen collapsed during the stream, and that is 11 o'clock. The window is shut. It's 11 o'clock. So teams have got their final 2 hours if they did submit the deal sheet. Deal sheets must be fully completed and submitted before 9, after 9, but before 11. So we'll see what clubs get that sorted, and if anything progresses overnight, I'll be on Twitter confirming any deals that get confirmed through that. It's just come out as well that Rangers have signed Bajrami from Sassuolo. He's a 25-year-old midfielder arriving on a long-term deal for £3.4 million. And that is the end of the transfer window for the 2024-25 season. We'll be back with the transfers in January, but that is all for now. I think, of course, the big ones are Sancho and Sterling, and of course Ivan Toney that didn't get his move to the Arsenals or the Real Madrids that were coming in for him. Obviously, a lot of deals this evening. We've gone over analysis of transfers that have already happened. We've had a look at the window winners. We've had a look at Arsenal's striking options. But that is it. So that is where we're going to end today's stream. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. We'll be back to normal podcasts next week. It is the international break, so we're going to do an England tactical thing next week around Lee Carsley's style of play and stuff like that. What to expect from England in the Nations League in September. Once again, thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. For extra content, obviously go and check out my podcast. There's loads of analysis stuff on there. I'll leave some links in a second, sort of stuff that you might like. I've also got the website, that's inmrfootball.co.uk. There's loads of stuff on there, match reports, club updates, analysis stuff, interviews with professional and semi-professional players. So go and check that out as well. And if all of that's not enough, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, it's INMR.journalist, and on Twitter, it's just INMR journalist. And there's loads of updates every day on there for all the latest football stuff. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon.